Go ahead. Let's see, Kathy, you are there.
I am here. Thank you. Sorry, I've got something on my screen. Okay, thank you. Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for an open dialogue. Attendance today at the Helping Parents Heal meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. However, these Zoom meetings are very helpful to parents all around the world, and they are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members who are not able to attend live can also watch. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about the many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally.
Thank you so much. That was perfect. And so before introducing Lorna, I'm going to go ahead and read just a little bit about her. She has a very short bio. Lorna Byrne is an international #1 best-selling author. Her last 2 books have gone straight to #1 on the UK Sunday Times chart, with more than 1 million readers around the world. Her books, Angels in My Hair, Stairways to Heaven, A Message of Hope from the Angels, and Love from Heaven have been translated into 30 languages. Lorna has been seeing angels since she was a baby. Very unusually, she sees angels physically and with as much clarity as the rest of us people see each other every day. This diminutive, soft-spoken, uneducated Irish woman who did not talk about what she was seeing until 7 years ago says that she has no idea of why she can see angels when others can't, adding that she is just an ordinary person. You can learn more about Lorna at www.lornabyrne.com. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Lorna Byrne. Welcome, Lorna.
It's my pleasure to be talking here and to have been invited, everything like that. But one other thing I'd like to say is, you know, for all the parents, you know, that have lost a child or a mother or a father or a best friend, it doesn't matter who it is. One thing I always say to everyone, and that is that they're not dead. It's only the human body that has died. They are very, very much alive. And I would want you just to know that, you know, and to believe it for yourself, because you will meet your loved one. You know, they're
I think that maybe Lorna froze, but let's wait. We had the same issue with Kat last
time. And it's such a loving gesture to see. And I suppose just a little bit about myself. I'm just an ordinary person. You know, I'm severely dyslexic. I think I may have pronounced that right that time. So I don't really read, only the odd word I get, and I can still get it wrong. And, you know, since I always say to everyone, I know if you read Angels in My Hair, you know this part of the story, but I always say from the moment that I opened my eyes, I was seeing angels as physically as I was seeing my mom and dad. You know, so I knew no different. And it was, in a sense, you know, maybe when I was about 2 or 2.5, and I was playing in front of the fire with my little brother. And we were playing with blocks that my dad had made out of pieces of wood. And my little brother said to me, he can sit with his back to the fire. You know, it wouldn't burn him. But you have to remember, I was only 2.5, you know, about that age, 2.5. And I was a slow learner in one sense. I wasn't talking or saying anything. I don't think I was even saying mama, dada, or anything like that. But I was all the time in conversation with the angels in a telepathic way. But, you know, when I was playing in front of the fire that time with my little brother, our hands touched, and it was so magical. It was like as if his hand went into mine, or mine went into his, and it all sparkled. And I felt so much love. And I remember laughing. And it was at that very moment that the angel said, I must keep it a secret. I mustn't tell anyone that I see them. And the other thing they told me, and even though I was only 2.5, I understood clearly. You know, sometimes when I think of that, I say to myself, but how could I have had? But I did. And the other thing they told me was that my little brother had died before I was born. And sometimes, you know, that time playing in front of the fire with him, I was only, as I said, about 2.5. But he could have been at the age of 4 or 5, you know, but even to this day, I still call him my little brother. And sometimes I would have seen him in my mom's arms as an infant, as, you know, she sat in this old armchair in front of the fire. Sometimes she would just fall asleep. You know, there was just so many occasions that my little brother, and I know his name now, Christopher, was part of my life, even with the kittens in the back part of the house, and even up to today. So I think it's just so important for you to realize that your loved one may have passed, but because we are, you know, a human being, but we are a spiritual being as well, we have that beautiful soul. And I always thank God, whether you believe in God or not, it doesn't make any difference, that we all have a soul, and so we don't die. You know, if you had even a stillborn birth, or your child died very young, or you miscarried, or anything like that, or it was a tragic accident, your loved one is still very much alive. And to me, you know, that's, to me, even to this day, that is incredible, because my parents have already gone to heaven, you know, so I have seen them. And sometimes when someone, you know, might be walking down the street, I might see a loved one walking beside them. And of course, I would know that it's a loved one that has died, because, how would I say, you know, the human body doesn't look perfect as perfect, but the soul is so perfect, and it gives such an image of the humans, of the person, of what they look like when they were human, but they're perfect. And, you know, all my life, I was, say, put into the back of the class, but I had the best teachers of all. I had the angels. They have taught me everything I know. And I don't see any reason at all why you can't see or hear your loved one the way I do with angels, and the way I do with my little brother, and on occasions others as well. And there's no reason, and I know many of you must at different times, you know, a feeling or a thought touches you, or you know, you see something and it reminds you of your loved one. They're all the time giving you signs. They're all the time helping to comfort you. And again, that is something that I love. Your guardian angel is right there with you all of the time, but the soul of your loved one, in a sense, comes and goes. But every single time you are thinking of your loved one, they are right there beside you. And I know, even though I can't see them on the screen with all the faces I see, I know your loved ones are right there with you. And, you know, I always remember, will I tell you a little story? Because I don't really like talking about myself, because I'm just an ordinary person, but it's a story I have told before, but maybe you never heard it. And that is where this little boy, I don't know how it really happened. I never know. God never gives me all the details. But whatever happened, he wanted to come to Ireland to see myself. You know, so it was this little boy's wish to come to Ireland. And I just get this phone call, and I don't know how they got my phone number, because this was years ago. And they just said, Lorna, can we come to see you? Our little boy is very sick. And it is a sad story, but it's a happy story as well. And God and the angels told me to say yes. I didn't know how they were going to get to Ireland, but they did travel from the States, that long, long journey. I think at one stage they ended up in London and in a hospital, and then the next stage they ended up in Belfast. But I suppose the sad part is, even though I was talking to the family on occasions on their journey and how excited their little son was to come to see me, I knew I would never see him. But of course, I couldn't tell the parents that, because God wanted them to make this journey. And just cutting the story really short, when they were in the Belfast hospital, the doctors turned around to them and said, we can do no more for your little son. You might as well take him home. And of course, I get a phone call, and the parents are shocked. We've come all this way and they have said we should take our son home. And I was just told to say to them, no, take your little son to his grandparents. And again, skipping loads of the story, the ambulance pulled up outside this house where the grandparents lived, and the father picked up his little son and carried him in his arms. And just as he stepped over the threshold, his little son said, I'm home now. That was the important part. It wasn't to come to see me. It was, for some reason, even unknown to me still, to be in Northern Ireland. It was his home, even though he was born in America. Sometimes the soul has such a connection in that way. And I know he lived for maybe a couple of days after that, but he was so happy because he was home now. You know, sometimes things are, you know, we don't understand them at the time. And then skipping lots of the story again. And I hope I'm not boring you. But I got a phone call maybe a year later, and the family said, can we come to see you? And of course there was other siblings. And I said, yes, of course. So they arrived one day, and it was a beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. And we had tea and sandwiches out in the garden, and the other children played and had fun. And at times the children would come over and they would talk about their little brother. And I think it was the little girl turned around and said, he always shows us rainbows. That's how we know he's around, because he shows us rainbows. And we all said, well, let's look up into the sky. And the sky was clear, not a cloud. And what do you think appeared in the sky but a rainbow? One would say, how on earth could that happen? But things do happen like that. The souls of our loved ones gives us signs all of the time. So if you're receiving any signs from your loved one, don't, in a sense, say to yourself, am I imagining it? It's kind of like, accept it. And just, what would I say, hold your heart, and say thank you and know they're there. Because I know the souls of your loved ones are right there now with each and every one of you. And there's no doubt about that. And then the other incredible thing was that on that story, I was told to say to them, let's go for a walk. And we all went for a walk together. And we meet this man, I won't say where it was. And as we were walking, before we met this man, the parents were saying to me, and they showed me a photograph of their little boy, that somebody had brought him this tiny owl, to show him and for him to pet it. And what had happened was, when we were on a walk, we met this man, and what do you think he had? But a tiny little owl, no bigger than the palm of my hand, if it was that big. And that just gave the family just so much joy. And what did they say? We always knew he was alive and around us every time we needed it. But today just proved it to us more than ever before. So I would always say, don't allow the soul of your loved one to have to keep proving it to you. Know they're there. And, sometimes someone would say to me, I never got a chance to say goodbye. If it happened in another way. But I would always say, you can still say goodbye. You can talk out loud to your loved one. You can even give out to them, because sometimes I would give out to my husband, Joe, for dying so young as well. Why weren't you here to give me a helping hand, with our children, all that kind of thing. But again, that is an expression of love. They just love us. And if you ever feel that, that you didn't tell them you love them, tell them now. Or if you felt you had an argument with them, don't worry about it, because that argument means nothing to them. They love you so much. Remember, they don't just see the human person. They see the beautiful soul and the beautiful person that you are. And I know so many people just pull themselves apart. I remember a father saying to me, I argued with my son, that day before he went out. And we had a screaming match, but my son never came home. And the father was finding it so hard to forgive himself for having that screaming match. But I just said to him, don't worry, write your son a letter. He loves you. That screaming match, it's kind of like, it just disappears, because the soul of your loved one just loves you so much. And it's like you need to forgive yourself if you're feeling that way, because they don't want you to feel that way. They want you just to feel their love. Or even, a mother that has an abortion, you have to remember that the soul of your child chose you, knowing that you may have an abortion, but it still chose you and came and loves you unconditionally. And I think that's a very important thing to remember, because again, I have met many young and older women who would say, you know, I had an abortion and now after years I feel guilty or something like that, but there is no need to. They love you unconditionally, and that's what you must remember. And I suppose another little story was, and I know I'm always telling stories, so forgive me for that, but again, I don't know what country I was in, but I was giving a talk, and at the end of the talk, I was walking down the center, and this lady just grabs a hold of my hands and says, Lorna, I have to ask you a question. I was so afraid to ask you when we had questions and answers. And I said to her, what's wrong? And she said, I want to know, is my little son in hell? And is that where I'm going to go as well? And I actually looked at her quite shocked, you know, and I just said to her, why on earth would you think that? And she just said, because that's what the nuns told me. Seemingly she had come from Ireland and had emigrated. And I just said to her, you know, your little son is in heaven and he's right there with you as well, little Patrick. And he's always been in your heart and you have always been in his, and he loves you dearly. And when it's your time to go home to heaven, and only when, I said to her, then both of you will meet. You know, so no little soul ever, no soul, what would I say? Your loved ones are all in heaven. They're all fine. And I don't want you to ever think that they are in a bad place. And I know I would love to, you know, get some questions from some of you if you want to ask something, because again, I think that's very important.
We do have questions, and Sherry is asking, do our children and loved ones who have transitioned hear our thoughts if we are thinking about them and talking to them in our head, or do we need to talk to them out loud? And she loves hearing your beautiful stories.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I would say to her and to all of you, yes, they hear every thought that's in your head, every emotion that you feel within your heart, within yourself. And if you want to talk out loud to them, never be afraid to do that. Never be afraid even to write them a letter. You know, I think that's, you know, that's in a sense one of the faults we have, if I would call it a fault, where we are in a sense afraid of the supernatural in one way, and then in another way we crave it. We want to know that our loved ones are still alive, and your loved ones are. That is, you know, that spark of light of God, your soul. So yeah, talk to your loved one whatever way you want, whatever, you know, even when you may be watching something on the TV, it could remind you of your loved one. It could bring you to tears, and just know that your loved one has its arms around you, whether it was an infant, a child, or a grown-up. And for every mom and dad to know that your loved one, you know, your child chose you to be its parents, no matter what. So you are the best parents in the world.
That's beautiful. I have another, first of all, statement. One is, this is from Caroline, and she's saying, I do not have a question, but wanted to share that a beautiful orange butterfly has been tapping on my window the entire time that Lorna has been speaking, which I think is beautiful. Martina is saying, I love your stories. I was wondering about your experiences with souls who transition by suicide. Could you maybe offer some reassurance to those?
Yeah, what would I say to you? I would love to just reassure you that, even when a human being commits suicide, they are gone straight to heaven. No matter what anyone tells you, they're gone straight to heaven. And God just wraps them in that beautiful blanket of light. And how can I say this? I think I have part of this in Angels at My Fingertips. They sit on God's lap. God embraces them. You have to remember, when someone commits suicide, whether it's a man, woman, or child, they don't really mean it. They're just in such a dark place. They're struggling. They're trying to find their way out, and their guardian angel has been doing everything to help them to see the light of hope. And I know everyone around them does their share as well, but sometimes it's not enough. So God takes them home to heaven. And I know I could tell you so many stories about where someone commits suicide, but know they are in heaven. And again, every time a thought comes into your mind, or you see something that reminds you of them, they're right there with you as well. Your loved ones don't want you to feel hurt. And those that commit suicide, you must remember, they never meant to. They never meant to. They love you so much, but they never meant to hurt you. It's like it just happened. It just happened, if you can understand that. I know that might be hard. It's like 1 second here, and on the same second, they weren't here. It just happened. And their guardian angel took them straight to heaven, and God embraced them and wrapped them in that blanket. And I know it really hurts when someone we love loses their life in that way. But sometimes we do everything to try to help them, and it doesn't work. But know that they are okay. Okay.
That's beautiful. Yes. And also we talk about the fact that it's just an exit point. If it hadn't happened that way, it could have happened a different way, but that in terms of our soul's plan, it was the time to go. So I think we have wiggle room, but the way that we transition doesn't matter. I have another question from Sherry, and she's asking if you could describe heaven and what our loved ones are doing there. Could you talk a little bit about that?
That is a beautiful question, but a very hard question, because heaven is beyond our comprehension. But one thing that God does is, how would I say, helps us, our souls, in the sense, because your soul entered this beautiful body, at the moment of conception, that spark of light of God, and the guardian angel, and the gatekeeper of that soul, all at the same moment. But in heaven, it's like, I know sometimes I would say, in the future, we will make this planet, our world, like a little glimpse of heaven. And I just say a little glimpse of heaven because there's no comparison. But a soul, if you want the soul of your loved one to be on top of a mountain, the soul of your loved one will go to the top of a mountain in heaven, or sometimes even here on earth. If the soul of your loved one, and you knew they loved horses, or would be on horses or anything like that, and you're imagining that happening, well, the soul of your loved one can do that in heaven as well. But the most important thing about the soul of your loved one, and that is, there is no words to describe heaven. I know at one stage I described a little bit of God's library. And I know on other stages, when God takes me to heaven, it's always incredible. And he always sends me back, by the way. And I give out about that because I know when you go there, you don't want to come back. And I know that's hard for us humanly, like to think that our loved one doesn't want to come back. But your loved one, their soul can do more for you in heaven than they could on earth. And again, that's another thing that we find very hard to understand or accept in that way. Like, you know, even the time when I lost my own child, you know, and I died at the same moment, because even though God was telling me, no, that was not to happen, I wasn't going to heaven, but I'm afraid I argued with God in that way, and I went straight to heaven with my child. And just this beautiful angel that stood in front of me, you know, not letting me go any further. And just looking back at my family, the thing is, when your soul goes to heaven, it knows, what would I say, the future of your family. And I knew my family would be all right. So I wanted to go with my baby. But then, skipping a lot of the story, as the angel reached out to take my baby from my arms, so gentle and so loving, God said, I must go back. And of course, I knew I had to. That part is really hard to explain to parents. You know, that sometimes your loved one, we're all here in a sense on borrowed time. You know, the human body gets sick, it can die, but your soul lives. And I think that's something that we should always, in a sense, cling to when we have lost someone. But the most important thing is that you live, because I always would say, you know, if there's a husband and wife and one dies, God always leaves the stronger one. I always remember a couple, and, you know, this man, his wife died, and he said, I don't understand. She was the stronger one. And I said, no, you're the stronger one. That's why you're still here, and you're to live life. You're to rear your child. That's what your beautiful wife would want. You know, that is hard. It's like, even for myself, when Joe died, you know, I remember him saying to me, you know, his soul, you know, coming on different occasions and telling me to go and find someone else to fall in love with. And I said to him, but how could I love someone else when I love you? And he said, but humanly, you need the love of another human being. Now, there's no one in my life, but I did try and do what he said, but it didn't work, you know. But just remember, your loved one is not dead. They are very much alive, no matter how, you know, no matter how many barriers you have put up, or no matter how many times you scream, or no matter how, you know, your heart, your chest feels that big hole inside of it, that ice. You know, you're the strong one that God has left behind for a while. And it's important for you to live life. In a sense, I would often say to live life now for yourself, but for the loved one you lost as well, because they want you to live life. It's not your time yet, no matter how, you know, depressed you may feel, or how lonely you may feel. You've got to reach out for life, because that's what they would want for you for now.
That's beautifully said. And it's true. They want us to be happy as well. So it's such a beautiful thing that your husband wants you to find someone. I know it's hard, but it is beautiful to know that they want us to be as happy as they are. Shelley's asking a question, and I'd love for you to reassure her. She says, are they sad to be missing out on their life here? My son was very young and he loved his life, and I wonder all the time if he is sad to not be here. I'm sure that you offered some reassuring words about that.
That is a beautiful question. I think you have to remember that your son is not missing out on life. Your son is in heaven now. And again, our life is just like a split second. All the things he may have planned to do within this life, he's doing other things that are billions and billions of time, beyond our comprehension. I'm finding it very difficult to find words for that. So he's not missing out in life, but you're here, you're alive, and he's there beside you. And he doesn't want you to miss out on your human life, because it's not your time yet for your soul to go home to heaven. And he loves you dearly. I hope I answered that question okay.
That's perfect. And I just want to also ask another question that I think is beautifully phrased. Mary Burton is, she actually holds channeling sessions with our parents to teach them how to channel their children. She's amazing. And she has a question. I love Laura's Instagram post today, in which she relates that angels hold lights in front of those who need hope. Do you have any suggestions for us as far as providing hope for others?
Well, again, that is another beautiful question. If you're grieving really badly and you're feeling so sad within yourself, I know your guardian angel and other angels are holding that light of hope in front of you, helping you to see it. But remember, so is the soul of your loved one, of those that have gone home to heaven already. They're that, what would I say, beacon of light in front of you. They want you to get up, get up out of the chair and, embrace life. They want you to feel the sunshine, feel the rain. They want you to laugh. They want you to have, joy in your life. They want you to embrace others that are in your life that you love, and to allow, new people to come into your life, even animals to come into your life and love them, because we all need love. But I think that was just a beautiful question. It's hard to help us to get through grief. Sometimes I always notice that grief can be, in a sense, for one person, easier, because it's always what I have noticed. The amount of love a person shared with that person, whether it is a husband or a friend or, even a child. And sometimes I don't understand that. But no matter what, the soul of the loved one is always there to give a helping hand and to give signs. Just so many signs our loved ones give us, and we miss most of them. And I know all of you are looking for proof that your loved one is still alive. But I know as well, on the other hand, you are all receiving those signs and that proof personally for you yourself.
Beautiful. And going a little bit further along this same line of discussion, Coralie is saying, are our loved ones able to intervene in our lives and help and protect us?
Yes, and of course they're always doing that. I love that question. They are always helping to guide us. Sometimes it is, how would I say this? You know, your guardian angel often calls in the soul of a loved one because we are, in a sense, ignoring our guardian angel, ignoring other angels even. So they call in the soul of a loved one because a loved one has lived as a human being, and we can sometimes pick up their presence, the senses of them, so much easier. And of course, they help us in difficult times. They are there all of the time. And again, even giving you signs or putting, you know, a positive thought into your mind. You could be saying, I remember Jerry would say such and such, you know, during a hard time you're going through, or you would just feel their love and somehow know that you're not alone and you're going to get through this. It happens in so many different ways. So yes, they do help us. I'd have to say to you, souls of my loved ones have helped me many times.
Well, I was wondering if you would be willing to tell us a little bit about your own experience when your daughter transitioned and about meeting the angels. And I know that you said a little, you referred to it a little earlier, but it's such a beautiful passage in your book. Could you possibly just tell a little bit about that as you are a Shining Light parent, just the same, you're a Shining Light sibling, and you're a Shining Light parent as well. Do you mind doing that, Lorna?
I don't mind at all. You know, I just wanted my baby to live. You know, I have to say I begged God that my baby would live. And even when the angels told me my child wouldn't live, I just didn't want to accept that, like any mother. You know, I'm as human as the rest of you, but just like any mother, I didn't want to accept it. So when my baby died, I actually died with it, you know. And even at that time, when I was standing in front of the angel with my baby in my arms, and I looked back, I could see my husband, Joe, you know, in a terrible state of panic, you know, trying to wake me, but I knew I wouldn't wake, you know, because my soul had left my body. And my guardian angel had taken me straight to heaven, and I was standing, you know, in front of this beautiful angel of light. And it's really, I know in the book I tried to describe as much as possible, but yet it's always very hard because there is so much love and compassion. This angel, you know, was giving me love and giving me compassion as well, you know, because she was going to take my baby. It was the best thing. And even though I didn't want to give it, and I just couldn't go any further, she just blocked the way. But then when God spoke, I knew I had no choice but to go back. It's like when God spoke at that time, how he done it with authority in one sense. And God is neither male or female, but he's always given me a male appearance in that sense. And just the love that came with, you know, I had to go back. And just at that very moment when that angel of light, that beautiful angel, you know, just seeing her reaching out towards me and her hands of light just going under my baby from my arms ever so gently. And she taking my baby. And it wasn't quick, it was slow. It was like I was being allowed to feel the love of my child and give love to my child at the same moment. There was just so much gentleness and compassion and so much love. And when I went back, when my soul went back to my body, what would you say? That part was kind of maybe a bit painful and everything like that. And the grieving, I just grieved so much, but yet I have that joy of holding my baby in my arms, and my baby is in heaven and with me as well. And the same thing that I remind all mothers, and that is that, your baby chose you to be its mom, no matter what. No matter whether some parents would say, but I wasn't a good parent, I was a bad parent. Your baby chose you, your child chose you to be its mother. And therefore, you are the best mother in the world, no matter what. The soul of your child loves you unconditionally. And that's one thing I love when a soul comes from heaven, at the moment of conception. It just loves that mom unconditionally, no matter whether it only stays for a moment or a few weeks, or is born and dies shortly after, or grows up and dies young. It loves you unconditionally. So I would say to every mom and dad, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel I wasn't the best. And again, I would always say to everyone, tell those you know, tell those that you love them. Don't leave it till the last moment, or don't leave it till, after they're gone. Don't be afraid. I always remember giving a talk, and, I was talking about love. I was talking about what I'm talking about here, and about, telling those you love them. And I asked many of people in the audience, have you told your mom and your dad you love them? Have you told your brothers and sisters, your friends? And I always remember the lady that was interviewing me, she got very upset because she turned around and said, my mom has never told me she loves me. And later on, a few days later, I got a call from her, and she told me that she rang her mom as soon as everything was over. It was the first thing she did. She rang her mom and told her mom she loved her. And she said, my mom didn't speak for a few moments. It felt like forever. And suddenly my mom said back to me, I love you. And when I got home, I went straight to my mom's, not to where she lives. And she said her mom and herself embraced each other. Sometimes when you say, I love you to someone, it's such a shock that sometimes they step back and say, give me, that's because they want a minute to digest what is happening, because they love you too. And it's just so important to say, I love you. It's not just words you're rambling off. Your words could save someone's life. Just telling someone you love them.
That's beautiful.
And especially those that are close to you.
Lorna, that is just so beautiful. And Gordine is saying, thank you, Lorna, for sharing your love and incredible experiences with us. Your voice has such healing to it. But I have a question from Shelley that kind of relates to what you were saying earlier about your near death, and maybe you would also call it a shared death experience with your daughter. She's saying, do people pass before their time, or is it always their time? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I love the question again. And, you know, if no one dies before their time in one sense, because it becomes their time. That moment, whether it was, you know, something horrific happening in the world, and which has happened many times and many lives would be lost, it becomes their time then. And again, that is hard to accept. And for others of us, we live a life, you know, I always remember a father telling me, you know, his daughter died at 19. And he said afterwards, months afterwards, he just started to think about his daughter's life. And he realized that even though she was only 19, she lived a full life. She'd done so much, you know, she'd be swimming, she'd be running, she'd be, you know, out with her friends. She would, you know, like in a sense, conquer the world. And she was always telling us she loved us, you know, so it's hard, but yes, when someone dies, that moment becomes their time.
That's a very good answer, and I appreciate it. We also have Martina saying, thank you, Lorna. Your words are so comforting. And then Caroline is saying, do more angels come around during grief? Or do they make themselves more obvious, or are we more aware? I have sensed and felt them so often, as well as sensing my son. I see flashes of light multiple times daily. Would you say that they do visit more often when things like this happen?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that the guardian angel is always there, your guardian angel, every second of your life. It can never leave you for 1 second. But yes, when we are grieving, you know, even if we think we are alone, there is not just your guardian angel around, but other angels as well. And of course, the soul of your loved one. I have often gone to, you know, funerals, and just to see all the angels that are there, helping everyone to grieve, helping everyone to let go in that sense, and just loving us and embracing us. And as well as seeing, you know, the soul of the loved one, you know, sometimes standing beside the grave, sometimes, you know, standing beside the person that is missing them the most, you know, it is so loving. I know you don't see it, but a lot of people sense it. They feel the presence. They feel, you know, the peace, but they feel the hurt and the pain as well. And they feel that love. And so yes, the place would be full of angels, and not just the soul of the loved one that had just died, but the souls of other loved ones that would be related as well to everyone that is there. Even if someone is not related to the family, the souls of their loved ones will be around as well.
That's beautiful. Elizabeth is asking, and I think that maybe this will be our last question, but it's a very good one. She's saying, if we know and believe that our loved ones are with us, does this help them in their world? Are they more settled because we know that they are with us?
Another lovely question. Are they more settled that they know that we love them? The soul of your loved one is completely at peace. It's like as if, how would I say, they are pure love. You know, they just want us to, they just want to help us cope with the grief of the loss. And they want us to know that they are there with us. It's a beautiful question, but it's like they are completely at peace. And they're just embracing us. And they're not in pain, they're not angry, they don't need anything from us, but they give to us, if that's the best way to explain, trying to find a human way to explain it. They give to us because they want to comfort us.
That's beautiful too. And I have one more question from Sherry that maybe we can fit in. Do you have any suggestions on how we can connect with our loved ones and guardian angels?
Well, the first thing I would say is, which I don't think any of you are skeptic that much. You might be still a bit, but you are reaching in spiritually to get to know more. So I would just say to you, put, your doubts away. Don't be doubting when you receive a sign. Don't be doubting when you feel the presence of a loved one, and talk to them and ask the angels, ask your guardian angel, ask the soul of your loved one to give you as many signs as you need. They give you loads of signs every day, but you might only see one, or you might only recognize one. You might say to yourself, weeks have passed and, I only saw one sign, that meant something to me, but they're giving you abundance of signs. But a lot of the times we turn them away in that sense, because we kind of sometimes say, well, that's not good enough. It's like, which one thing I've always said, it could be, you asked for a flower, a bunch of flowers, and sometimes it's hard for the soul of your loved one or an angel to get another human being to give you a bunch of flowers. But one thing that children respond to angels very quickly, and a child could pull a little daisy and run right over to a stranger and hand the little daisy to a stranger. That's your flower. So it's like if a thought comes into your head to ring Mary or John or someone, go and ring them, because they could be asking, to hear from somebody. That could be the sign that they are asking for. Or it could be that, someone is grieving so hard and is out and about and is just saying, nobody cares. Why doesn't someone smile at me or open the door? It doesn't cost you anything to give a stranger a smile when you are being prompted, and you're being prompted loads of times. Or it could be literally anything so simple. We have to help the angels and our loved ones to give each other the signs.
That's beautiful. And you're right. And I think that the most important message is that this journey is all about love, and that we need to choose kindness every time that we can. I just want to read some things that are being said about you. Thank you so much, Lorna. This has been wonderful. What beautiful words, Lorna. It is so uplifting listening to your stories. Thank you, Lorna, for your uplifting stories. Thank you, Lorna. These messages were so beautiful and inspiring. And then thank you so very much. As said by others, your words are such a comfort. And what we do now at the end of the meeting is that we unmute everyone, or we allow them to unmute, and everyone says thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was
Much
wonderful.
gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Lorna.
you.
It
And
was
thanks to
wonderful.
all.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you, Lorna. This was beautiful.
Yes, it was just wonderful. And I'll have this up on YouTube for everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone.